Welcome to the Salt and Lime podcast, where we have wonderful conversations about modern dating dilemmas, and we pair each conversation with a tequila. In addition, we give you a review of a tequila from a novice, which is myself, and then there's my co host, Marcus.
What's good, y'all?
He's the connoisseur, so you get both perspectives. So what did you bring for us today to try?
Okay, so today I brought, it's actually another new tequila that I have not tried yet.
You haven't tried it yet?
I haven't tried it
so
yet.
So it's new news.
But I hear that it's very unique.
Unique or good?
Unique.
You paused too long. Okay.
So today we're going to be rocking with Cava de Oro.
That is like black on black on black on black.
On black on black on black on black on black.
Say it again. What's
black,
it called?
Black. Cava de Oro.
Cava de Oro.
Yeah.
Something of something. What is that?
Cave of gold.
Cave of gold. Finally something that's not addictive or death or blood. Perfect. Yeah. Cave of gold. Now, I have high expectations for this tequila.
All right. So, yeah. So
and the bottles, again, are just so artistic. Is that just the thing with tequila?
I've seen some vodkas with some pretty interesting bottles. But, yeah, I think tequila, really takes it home when it comes to creative bottles. And so, I believe this is another añejo. Yeah, this is an añejo tequila.
So an añejo is an aged tequila.
Okay, yeah. So blanco is not aged at all. Reposado, which means rested, is aged 2 months to a year.
Okay.
And then añejo is aged 1 to 3 years. And then extra añejo is aged more than 3 years. Anything over 3 years is considered extra añejo.
Okay. So the older, the more expensive? Or not necessarily?
Typically, but not always.
Does it continue to get darker as it ages?
It depends on the charring on the barrels and what type of oak they use and how long it sits in there and the temperature of the room that the barrel sits in. So, yeah, I've drank everything from tequila that looks like cola to tequila
that does not sound appealing for some.
That looks brown and so they come in and they like people. They come in all different kinds of colors and flavors.
Oh gosh, you're so right.
And then there's Cristalino. Now Cristalino is aged tequila, but somehow it comes out clear, and I think that's witchcraft. Because how do you age a tequila and it's clear? That doesn't make any sense to me. But yeah,
I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, we'll have to try Cristalino one day.
Okay.
I know.
But today it is the Cava de Oro.
Yeah, today is Cava de Oro.
Cave of gold.
Cave of gold. What are your first impressions?
I'm always waiting for it to burn. I don't know why. I think I'm just triggered like that. It didn't burn.
Okay. That's why
definitely flavor. I almost felt like I tasted a little bit of citrus before it went down.
I taste a little bit of cinnamon.
I was going to say a caramel, cinnamon, something or another.
There's some caramel or some honey in there. It tastes like
caramel, honey, but definitely just a hint of some citrus something.
Yeah, I like it.
It's not bad. It's not strong. It has a strong flavor. Very different from the Blanco we tried before.
Yeah.
I actually like this.
Do you?
I do.
Okay.
I do like this. So Cava de Oro.
Cava de Oro.
Cave of Gold. This was good. So if you're looking for something it's hearty. That's the word I'm looking for. It's got layers to it.
And it's warm. It gives you like a warm feeling without burning.
Not all the liquor though.
No, not like this. So
it's
this
lingering,
is
that's for sure.
This is warm, to me, like a hot toddy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Warm, but not like hot.
Right. It's not spicy. It doesn't have any bite to it. It's really smooth going down, but it's a very warm, smooth feeling. So the one we tried before, the one we tried last week, there was no warmth to it. It was just kind of...
No.
It was kind of refreshing a little bit, but very smooth, no real flavor notes. But this has a lot of different flavors to it. And yeah, it's very warm going down.
It's warm and cozy. Cozy, kind of like our topic today. Love versus attachment.
That's an interesting topic.
Very interesting topic. I think a lot of times people confuse the two or think that they're synonyms.
Yeah.
They're not, they're different.
Yeah. People associate love with attachment and attachment with love. It's interesting, it's like hearing the conversations that are on social media.
Oh, Are
Some
there
of,
real conversations though? I think sometimes people just be typing stuff.
well, yeah, people be giving unsolicited opinions on things, but it's really weird how when they talk about true love or real love, they talk about it in a way that kind of sounds like obsession.
Yeah. So what's in your opinion, what's the difference between love and attachment?
I think, in my opinion, so love is a actionable word that means you want the best for a person, the best outcomes for a person, the best as far as their well-being, as far as their life situation, as far as their relationships, as far as your relationship with them. Like if you will put that in front of your own selfish desires or needs or whatever the case may be, if you put that in front of yourself, the desire for the best outcome for another person, then I would consider that love.
I agree. I agree with that. So even if those outcomes have nothing to do with you, or
Right.
like you want the best for that person, even if it means what's best for them doesn't include you,
Exactly.
that to me is
Exactly.
the litmus test really of what love is, and not of, well, how, what am I going to get out of it?
Right.
That's a
And
little bit different.
yeah, and then attachment is always in association to you. Attachment is, I want the best for this person, but only if it also benefits me. I want the best for this person in the context of me.
Right. Like what's in it for me? What am I going to get out of it?
Yeah.
Like I want the best for you. If I'm a part of the outcome.
Right.
Because if I'm not a part of the outcome, well then I'm not.
Then clearly it's
interested.
not the best for
Right.
you or me.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's attachment and low key obsession. It sounds like obsession. It feels like obsession.
Yeah, like you need to have other stuff going on
Yeah.
and not like your emotions need to be stable without me. Like I can't be the sole source of you being happy or elated. Like you have to be happy within yourself already. Now, don't
Right.
get me wrong. If you're in a great relationship, your partner's going to make you happy. But if I'm the only thing that's making you happy and my absence just on a daily basis is causing you anxiety or causing you to have like ill feelings, then that's not healthy.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
attachment.
That's
Like I'm
attachment.
attached to you,
Right. And
and I
that's
don't have a sense of self.
yeah, and that's a scary idea because then when people start to get that attachment, when people start to get to the point where they feel incomplete without a person, the thought of them, the fear that comes from the idea of them not being in your life, that's what makes people do crazy things.
Or even just during the day. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, okay, you got off at 4, it's 6 o'clock, and now you're anxious because you haven't connected or you don't know exactly where your partner is, and your anxiety is out the roof. That's attachment.
Right. So yeah, people often
Or unhealthy
confuse
attachment, I should say.
yeah, very unhealthy. But people often confuse the two. They confuse love with attachment, and they are very different things. And it's important to know the difference so that you can recognize when one is turning
So
into the
I
other.
also think the difference between love and attachment is that love tends to be sacrificial in nature. Now, I don't mean like sacrifice to death type of thing. I
Right.
just mean you have to compromise in a relationship, and sometimes you have to sacrifice the things that you ultimately want. So, for example, time, right?
Right.
I could get lost in a project literally like 20 hours.
Yeah, me too.
That's not conducive if you have a husband and a child at home because they need your time too. That's just a part of just having a relationship.
Right.
So then you have to strike that balance.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like if you're invested, it may not feel like a sacrifice, but it is a cost because if you weren't in a relationship, then you do whatever you want. You can stay up all night working on your project and nobody really cares.
Yeah, exactly.
But you're up 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. It's like, I haven't seen you all day. We haven't connected. And you need that. So then you do have to, I guess sacrifice was a really strong word, but I don't want people to get the wrong idea. But there's always a cost to whatever stage you're in, whether you're solo dolo or you're in a relationship or in a marriage. When someone else enters into your circle, whether it's a kid or another adult or significant other, there's a cost for that.
Yeah, everything
Yeah.
has a cost. I think people hear the word transactional and they confuse it with exploitive transactions.
So I'm the person that you're
Yeah,
talking about.
yeah,
Because
people
when I hear
hear,
that, it's a huge turnoff. Like,
but everything in life is transactional. Like you eat food to stay alive, to get some kind of enjoyment out of it, to sustain a certain degree of happiness and fulfillment, and to keep you alive. Like you eat with the expectation that it's going to do those things for you. Even something as simple as breathing. Like we breathe to get the oxygen out of the air
but
so
we
that we
don't even
don't
think
die.
about breathing. It's just what we do. It's automatic.
Yeah, but even subconscious things are
You mean
transactional.
input output?
Right.
So when I hear transaction, I think bought sold.
Okay.
So that's why it does have a negative connotation for some people. Because to your point, I can see your point, and you're right. But I think in a relationship, there are so many feelings involved that the transaction is seamless, effortless. It doesn't feel like that
Yeah.
because it's something I want to do for you. It's something you want to do for me, and it's not looked at. I won't say transactional. It's not looked at as bought and sold or tit for tat.
So I see transactional as an exchange of something.
Okay, the balance in the relationship, the
Yeah.
give and take.
Yeah, exactly. And
That
there
that
is give and
verbiage.
take in everything. So a transaction for me is an exchange, and not all transactions are something being bought and something being sold. Not all transactions are I give you a gift, you give me a gift.
Okay, I think it's just the wording that I have a problem. Probably me and other people too have a
Yeah,
problem with. But I get it. Okay,
it's the
okay.
connotation that we've attached to it because we hear it so much in a negative connotation, and it's not always that.
Yeah, I'd
So
still pick another word because I'm like that. Yeah, I just
and that's the problem. I don't know any other words to explain and even exchange of something.
because it just sounds so. I don't know.
I don't know any other words.
Cheap. It does like
It might sound,
exchange, transaction.
yeah.
When I hear those words and being in the finance industry, it feels like cash.
Yeah.
Although it's not, to your point.
Right.
But okay, but the give and take, the yin and the yang, and the different flow of relationships, as long as those are balanced, then there's usually not a problem. But if you have someone who's taking way more than they're giving, or you are out of sync, that's when the problems happen.
Then that's exploitation. That's taking advantage of someone or something. So exploitation and taking advantage, I could see why those are negative terms because inherently they are negative terms. They are bad things. Nobody wants to be exploited. Nobody wants to be taken advantage of. Transactional. I think that we should really think about how we're using that word when we use it and actually talk about the context and the connotation of it so that people would better understand. Because we like to in this society, we like to just use words and then expect people to automatically know what we're talking about when language is a living thing. Like it's organic. It changes, it evolves. There's so many elements to it. People come up with new words and new phrases and new ways to new meanings, things that we commonly say.
Right. And you said it and it rubbed me the wrong way. And it would possibly not dawn on someone that you weren't meaning it in the way that I'm taking it.
Yes. And I think that a lot of times people jump to conclusions, right? They already have this idea in their head of what something could mean without asking the person who said it what they meant by it. And so they already have this idea based on their own experiences, based on their own insecurities, based on whatever.
Context plays a big part of that too.
Yeah.
Depending on when you said it, why you said it, and where it was said, may be embedded in the whole conversation, then sometimes people may just extract context clues from it. But yeah, to your point, communication is definitely key.
Yeah, and I think people need to practice communication. What I found out, especially since social media has blown up, is that people don't language very well. Like they don't know how to explain, how to put their thoughts into words and sentences and paragraphs so that the other party can understand. They just assume because everybody's been speaking pretty much the same language for however long they have, that people should just automatically understand what's in their heads without them needing to explain. I've heard this so many times. What's understood doesn't need to be explained.
It
Right?
does if you didn't explain
Right?
it the first
But
time.
here's the thing. I don't understand what you're saying. So could you explain it to me, please?
No, you need to do your research.
Right, yeah. You need to do your research on my opinions. Google my personal opinion so that you can understand where I'm coming from. No, you explain it to me.
Yeah.
I got a question. Is attachment ever healthy in a relationship, or is it always problematic?
I think you can have healthy, secure attachment in the sense of I'm attached to you as your wife. So there are certain things that you're going to expect from me and certain things that I'm going to expect from you. I'm attached to you in a marital way or even in just a dating relationship.
Right.
There's certain levels of attachment that I think are healthy as long as there are boundaries to it and it's clearly defined in the relationship. And I think only the two people in them can kind of define what that is
Yeah.
and what that looks like.
So what do you think are some good boundaries?
Well, I mean, we're always establishing boundaries in relationships. I mean, there's probably not a formal conversation where, hey, I need to talk to you. We need to sit down and establish our boundaries, right?
Maybe there should be. Maybe we should.
I don't think people are self-aware enough to do that.
Really?
I think it just happens.
That's true.
I think it just evolves with the relationship.
Yeah.
So, prime example, if you were in a previous relationship and you're used to your significant other answering right away, and now you're in a new relationship and that person doesn't answer right away, you can attach meaning to that that's not there. Right?
Yeah.
So when I'm in the office and I'm working, I tend to turn my phone off and put it in my bag. But I do check it periodically. That's just so I can focus.
You know what?
So I remember early in our marriage, I was working with the client and it was some hours. And when I looked at my phone, my husband had called, but it was a couple of hours before I saw it. So I called him right back. He was frantic. He thought something had happened. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm at the office. Nothing happened.
Right.
I was just focused.
Yeah.
And he was like, man, I'm like, okay, so do I need to check in more often? Or if I'm going to the office, just know there's going to be a lapse between when I'm going to have my phone. If it's an emergency, then you need to call the office number and have them like come get me.
Yeah.
Because most likely my phone's in my bag. So sometimes it's just learning the other person. Okay. And expectations and like, what did this mean to you? Because that's not what it meant to me. Rather than you're just dumb and stupid because I just didn't have my phone. You know, it's like it's everybody's point of view.
Right.
And when your point of view, everyone's point of view is shaped largely through their lived experiences. So I may have experienced something that allows me to see things differently than you do.
Right.
And so I'm going to react different. I'm going to attach different meanings to that. So it's just finding your balance. And again, communicating with your partner like, well, that was off for me and it made me feel this kind of way. And having a conversation and coming to an understanding.
I think that's my Achilles heel in relationships.
Which part?
The part of not really understanding why a person would require that level of communication or that level of attachment. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I low-key sometimes think I have Asperger's because I don't read people very well as far as like their emotions. Mm-hmm. I mean, I can take some cues, but for things like that, for people who, if there's a lapse in communication, but mm-hmm. I can explain after, I don't really understand the franticness in that because I don't ever make that association.
So I'll give you an example, a real life example for me. Back in 23, I lost a lot of people. A lot of people died, like every month. Yeah. And I was always notified with a phone call. And it was always during a certain time period. So it got to the point that when the phone rang, I was just like, I'm just not going to answer that. I mean, it doesn't mean that the person is going to suddenly not be dead. It's just, I don't want to hear that right now.
Yeah.
So I all of a sudden got an aversion to the phone.
Sometimes I'm like that in general.
I got an aversion to the phone. Obviously, I got over it. But for a long time, it was just like, yeah, don't. Just send me an email or something. I don't want to answer the phone. Because every time I do, life is different.
Yeah, leave me a voice.
So that's drastic, but I'm just saying if someone they start associating something, a precursor, they may automatically think, could it be this? Or could it be that?
Yeah. As I've gotten older, I better understand it now. I really didn't understand him. When I was younger, I'm like, people be busy. I do stuff. Like, I don't know what you're tripping for. Like, I be making moves, and I make moves where I ain't always looking at my phone. I don't always have to turn my phone on or keep my phone on or keep the notifications on. I get back when I'm done doing what I got to do. But
now, hours at a time, that makes sense. But
yeah.
has it ever been like days at a time?
Sometimes
Really?
it'll be days at a time, but never in a relationship.
Because I'm about to start singing Tony Braxton 7 whole days.
Romance type situation. I've never disappeared for days and then expected the person to not react. But if I'm at work for 8 hours and I don't get a chance to text you while I'm at work because it's been a crazy day, then I expect you to understand that I wasn't able to hit you back right away because I was at work and it's been a crazy day. And when I get home, I'll tell you about my crazy day and we'll both understand. But a lot of times, or not a lot of times, but sometimes people don't really understand that. It doesn't make sense to them. Like, you had your phone on you all day. It's like, yeah, but my ADHD said finish all of these tasks first and then get back so that you can have a conversation. Because if I respond to your text or if I answer your call, then I will completely forget about the task at hand and focus on the call, and then I'll forget what I'm doing.
I think context is important to talk about here too. So if someone is in a relationship and the other person has cheated in the past, I think that sort of thing gets heightened more. Like, you always have your phone on. You didn't hit me up the last time you did that. You was out with so and so, or you know what I'm saying, or stepping out of the relationship. So now that person's hyper vigilant about it, and obviously you're gonna have to resolve that because it doesn't seem like that's gonna be sustainable.
Yeah, so I think that's a difficult thing to resolve. Like, if somebody, yeah, well, not necessarily cheating, but if you have issues letting go of it and moving on and starting back from zero, like if it's always lingering in your mind to the point where, it affects everything, like any lapse in communication, any moment where you don't know where the person is, it automatically jumps to cheating. I think that the relationship could kind of be over if you are not willing to put in like significant effort into being able to let go of that.
How much responsibility do you think is on the person who had the infidelity to provide a base level of security again for that person to kind of help get rid of that? Ultimately, it is on the person, but I'm saying it's not, because sometimes what happens is the offending person will apologize. Be like, dang, I said I was sorry.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, you said that yesterday. It's going to take me a minute to process and get over it. So I have seen situations where the offending party was like, look, I admitted it. I'm sorry. I'm starting over, but dang, it's been 3 days. I need you to stop talking about it.
3 days is kind of nuts. But yeah, if it's 3 years and you're like,
that's
I forgive you. I'll take you back. We're going to work on this. And it's been 3 years and your record, the offending party's record has been squeaky clean for those entire 3 years. And the other person is still tripping. Like, there should be some kind of time limit. I'm not saying put a specific time limit on it, but I mean, there should be some kind of time frame where it's like, okay, look, I've been squeaky clean for like 3 years.
See, I already know myself.
I need you to either let it go or we need to go our separate ways. Because this is crazy. I can't keep going through this cycle, this roller coaster of emotions anytime I'm 5 minutes late.
Do you think that whereas there was love, an event like that, like cheating, could cause somebody to suddenly have an unhealthy attachment?
Definitely, yeah. Because some people internalize why the other person cheated. They put it on them. And they think like, well, if I had just been this or if I had just been that, then the person wouldn't have cheated. And then they become hyper vigilant, becoming the thing that they feel like they fell short on for that person.
You're absolutely right.
And so that attachment then becomes nuts because it's like,
I don't get caught up in that. You know why? Halle Berry, Beyonce.
Right.
Seriously, it just put everything into perspective. It's not on you. The person cheated because they wanted to cheat.
Yeah.
It's not because of, again, I'll say the actual act isn't because of anything that you did. Now, they may have cheated because of something lacking within themselves, but if there's something lacking in the relationship, then that calls for communication, dissolving the relationship
Yeah.
before you go out seeking something else.
Yeah, now there could have been a chain of events that, become the catalyst to a person seeking outside attention, and that outside attention leads to something else, and then that leads to something else. But ultimately it's that person's decision to make.
Absolutely.
And everybody, has their own decisions to make. Like,
that's true.
Yeah.
But you're right. I didn't think about the internalizing factor. So here's something that I hear all the time. If a man cheats on a woman, I will hear people say, he's out here making her look stupid. And I'm like, how is she looking stupid if she was the one that was cheated on? Like, I never understood that how somebody else's behavior makes you look stupid.
I don't think that people think when they say things.
You always say that.
I don't. I think they just say things and they're like, well, I hope it turns out okay. But they don't actually think about what they're saying. There's so many phrases that just don't make sense.
What are some phrases that don't make sense? My other half. Like, I'm only half of a person without you. That, to me, leans toward attachment. I know it's something that we just say, but just the essence of the phrase.
Yeah.
My other half.
Yeah.
Your other half of what?
But people do, honestly, I think there are a lot of people who feel incomplete without a partner. They don't feel like their lives, they don't feel like they can be a complete person without a partner. And this shows itself when there are people who say things like, I need to find my person so that I can start living my life.
I get needing to find your person. I don't get so you can start living your life.
It doesn't make sense.
But I will say this. I think that women, by and large, we are socialized a whole lot different in regards to getting married and having children, to the point of, if you're not careful and depending upon your influences and how you grow up, you may think that that's a part of your identity, to be a wife. And it's certainly to be a mother. That unconditional love is possible, or will there always be some type of attachment to it or expectation? He had to take a drink.
So I don't think that unconditional love is possible. And the reason why is because philosophically, our concept of love, like how we view love, how we define love, is conditional upon our experience. It's conditional upon our mindset, how we feel about things, our expectations, previous relationships, our relationships with our parents, our relationships with our siblings, our relationships with our relatives, our relationships with our community. Mm-hmm. So even our concept of love is conditional. And with that being the case,
explain more about that.
So how we view things, how we perceive things, it's conditional. Like the way that we view the world is conditional upon our eyesight, our ability to, our cognitive function, our ability to experience the world in different ways, all of our different senses and how we experience things. Like all of that is conditional. And so why would love be any different, especially considering that it's an abstract concept? Like there's no hard definition to what love is. You ask 100 people what love is, what love means, you're going to get 100 different answers. Yeah. So it's conditional minimum on how we define the term.
So I have thought about this a lot due to a writing project.
Okay.
Long story, different podcast. So I don't think it's possible. I don't think it's humanly possible. And there are people who will argue that, no, I love unconditionally. And to that I would say, you probably love hard. You probably love deeply, but you do not love unconditionally.
Exactly.
Because what that means is, in order to love unconditionally, you have to have zero expectation. Reciprocity is an expectation.
Right.
Like, I expect you to love me. That's a condition.
Transactional.
Or it's like, well, I can love them from a distance is what. I saw how you slipped that in there. But even when people say, well, I would give them situations like, could you still love? And they said, yes, but I have to love at a distance. I'm like, at a distance is a condition.
Exactly.
The only way you could love unconditionally is you have this blank slate and you're not going to get anything else. And you just decide to love in spite of there being nothing. Or maybe you even have to defend yourself emotionally or physically, and you're still saying that you can love. There's no way for you to love unconditionally and also protect yourself.
Exactly. I
So
think
that's why I
that,
say no.
right. I think if unconditional love was truly a thing, it would be the most harmful and horrifying thing on earth.
Absolutely. People
It,
be so exploited.
right.
Yeah.
Because I love you despite the fact
Anything.
that you beat me, or despite the fact that you abuse me, that you use me, that you exploit me. Like, I still love you, and even the conditions, how far away I have to love you, will never change because of that,
Hmm.
right? Like, I will love you exactly the same, in the exact same spot, in the exact same position, no matter what. Like, that is toxic. That is horrifying.
Even
That
if you
sounds like
take
a
that
horror
out,
movie. You know what? We should make a horror movie called Unconditional
I
Love.
mean, it's a lot going on.
We should do a horror movie called Unconditional Love,
My
and
gosh.
and show what people can go through. It'll be like what's the movie?
I have a book coming out called Unconditional.
Yeah, what's the movie where the guy sets all the crazy booby traps for people? He puts them through all of these different mazes, and they go through all of this pain and
Oh,
torture.
I don't remember the name of that, but
Saw,
I know.
Saw.
Oh,
It
yeah. I
could be
don't like
like
those.
Saw. It would be called Unconditional Love, and it would be
Unconditional
like the
Saw.
Saw movie, where people go through all types of trauma and horror and horrifying things to still love a person.
Well, let's take the context of the romantic love off the table, and even if you insert like my kids, like people will do a whole lot when it comes to their children, but even with that, I still say no because
Yeah,
what if your child never makes eye contact with you, but everybody else never calls you mom or dad, and when you're sleeping tries to kill you, or they're just indifferent. Not that they hate you, but they're just indifferent the entire time. And you'll have people that'll say, well, that's my kid. I'd still love them. Yes, but there's still conditions on that because you're not going to be able to love them the same as if
exactly.
you were, let's say you had another child and you have a healthy relationship. But I think it would be you'd be hard pressed. You'd almost have to be divinity
Yeah.
to do unconditional
Yeah.
love.
Objectively, unconditional love sounds like a mental illness.
I think you'd almost have to be
It
mentally ill
it
to be
sounds,
able to actively,
yeah.
meaning love as a verb, actively love someone with zero conditions.
Yeah, it sounds like a human being with a dog's brain. So, next question. Can attachment be mistaken for love in the early stages of a relationship?
Absolutely, in the early stages of a relationship, because
Yeah.
everything's new and it's fun, and you know, it's like that new car. It's the new car smell. Everything is spanking brand new. You want to get in it all the time. Fast forward to like 7 years old, new car smell is gone. Got all kinds of sounds going on. I just want to get from point A to point B.
It's French
I'm not
fries under the
attached.
sea.
So when anything's new, yeah, you're attached to it.
Yeah.
You may even love it, but I think it's you're more in danger of feeling like you're in love when you're not.
Okay.
I think once you start to see people for who they are through all phases, which can only happen over time, like
Right.
how they react to stuff, then you're like, you know what? He or she ain't all that great. You know? We all have like our good and our bad points, but you're gonna
Right.
only see the good in the beginning. And sometimes the things that you were really excited about become that thing that you absolutely hate.
I think people forget that is a possibility when they jump into relationships. Like when they jump into dating situations and they jump into relationships. Because I've heard a lot of people who, they were talking about dating and they were like, everything was going great and it was all wonderful and we were doing this and we were doing that. And then suddenly they just became distant and they didn't want
Well, time
to
happens and
be,
you take
yeah,
slowly take small things for granted
right.
and you don't think about it. And then if the other person who's feeling it doesn't say anything about it, you continue to do it, not knowing that it's offensive and resentment sets in, and then all of a sudden you're fighting about nothing.
Yeah, and they assume that because somebody may have lost interest over time after experiencing the person, that means that they were never interested in the first place. And that's a fallacy because I've personally been in situations where I've dated someone and everything was great, you know. And then I found out like maybe they let their dog kiss them in the mouth, and
That's such a cultural thing.
I
But did
know,
you see my
right?
face?
Or you know, maybe they put syrup on their spaghetti, or maybe they.
I don't want to know where they came from. I don't, because that's offensive.
Right, but and then you find out a lot of these just little things, and they build up over time, and it's like, you know what, this ain't gonna work out. The
I think it
initial
takes
interest was there, but
I think it takes a mature and a brave person to call it when it needs to be called. I think a
yeah,
lot of times people stay in stuff because they don't know how to get out, or they want to get out and it be nice and clean cut. They don't want a reaction from the other person.
yeah, that's never gonna happen.
When you're probably going to get a reaction from the other person, most likely, because
Definitely.
everybody's lives are about to change now, and
Yeah.
everybody has to do a shift.
Right.
You just got to read the room.
Yeah.
And maybe do that in a neutral space. But anyway,
I think that's why people ghost. Because they don't want to deal with the
that's a whole other topic.
That is a whole
other
other topic. We'll have to address that on another episode.
Yeah. So speaking of another episode, if you have a tequila that you want us to review or try, drop it in the comments and we'll be sure to put it on our list. But until then, be sure that you like, subscribe, and share. And thank you for tuning in.